Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Video. In today's video, we are going to be ranking the 10 strongest duelists from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal anime. We've done this with Duel Monsters, GX, and 5Ds, and today we're going to do it with Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. If you're unfamiliar with this series, I am looking at characters that have to have dueled at least once, and characters that are at their strongest point. So when I'm looking at Yuma, I'm not looking at him at the beginning of the show when he was a bit of a scrub duelist. I'm looking at him at the end of the show when he was a really good duelist. And it was actually really hard to make this list up because there's a lot of really close duelists, and this was a tricky one. Also, this is not going to be edited by the wonderful and fantastic Yada Locked, who did the 5Ds one. Yada will be doing a couple more videos for me, not in this series, so I didn't want you guys to get your hopes up for a really fun edited video because, well, it's me editing it. But check out that 5Ds one if you haven't. He did a great job. Anyway, let's begin. Here are the 10 strongest duelists from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal anime. I hope you guys enjoy. Number 10, number 96. So number 96 was basically an evil version of Astral. He looked exactly like Astral, but much more, black. He was really, really cool. I always loved number 96's design. And it's kind of hard to put him on a dueling scale because he only ever dueled really tough opponents. He had a duel against Astral that actually ended up being a draw, and then he eventually lost to Yuma and Astral a few episodes later. But he was always billed to be one of the really good duelists and someone who was probably on Astral's level. There's just not enough of a sample size for me to put him any higher than this, but that's what made a lot of these characters in Zexal really hard to rank, because a lot of them are villains that didn't win, but you know they're supposed to be pretty strong and powerful duelists. So you could probably make the case for number 96 to be a little higher, but I have him just kicking off this list at number 10. Number 9, Dr. Faker. So this is another one that has the same issue as number 96, and a similar issue as Don 1000, who we'll get to a little later on in this video. He's a character that barely dueled. He had one duel. It took Yuma, Shark, and Kaito to defeat him. Now, eventually the duel was taken over by Vector, and he kind of lost control of himself in the middle of the duel. But the reason I have him a little higher than number 96, and even making this list at all, even though he never won a single duel, is because it took 3 of the strongest characters in Zexal to stop him. And if it was a one-on-one duel with any of those characters, it probably is a coin flip. So I think you needed the power of the main 3 trio in order to defeat this guy, and that's why I have him just making the list as well at number 9. Number 8, Misael. So Misael is the first Barian who makes this list, the first of a couple, and I always felt that Misael, kind of similar to number 96 and Astral, was at a similar level to Kaito, but not really. I mean, he dueled Kaito really, really well, but Kaito did defeat him in what was one of the best duels in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the classic Moon Duel. But do not sleep on Misael. He defeated V and 3, 2 of the 3 Arclight brothers, at the same time in a stacked 2v1 duel against him. So Misael is not someone whose dueling prowess I doubt at all. I just think that there are a few more duelists that are probably stronger than him, and he's near Kaito's level, but let's be honest, Kaito is a GOAT, and we'll see if Kaito's number 1 on this list. Misael, meanwhile, is number 8. Number 7, Vector. So I have Vector just a smidge ahead of his Barian Emperor brethren, and I'm going to stand by that call. I think Vector had more quality wins than Misael did, and genuinely, I just believe that Vector's win against Durbe and Marag, 2 other really strong Barian Emperors, was really, really impressive, and Vector was supposed to be, in my opinion, the strongest Barian, of course, until Don 1000 showed up. And I think that the power rankings probably have to reflect that. I think if Vector and Misael dueled, Vector would be a slight favorite, and I would put my money on him to win. They're very close here, but I think Vector comes in deservedly at the number 7 spot. Number 6, Tron. So the only member of the Arclight family on this list makes the list just outside of the top 5, and I've got to give Tron a lot of credit. I actually originally had him higher than the number 6 spot, but I ultimately moved him down right before recording because I thought about it a little more. His really impressive victory is against Kaito. He is the only character in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! History, Zexal and Arc 5 included, that defeated Kaito in a one-on-one duel. And so that merit carried him very high on this list when I originally did it. And then I thought a little bit more about it, and Tron did have to use Heart and Haruto to kind of throw Kaito off of his game, and that was a big reason that Tron was able to defeat him. I'm not taking anything away from that victory. Tron defeated Kaito. That is a true statement, but there's a little bit of an asterisk with that duel, and I think Tron is a super talented, strong duelist and a really good villain in that early stage of Zexal, but I don't have him higher than some of the other characters because there is a big asterisk on that win. He still comes in at a very respectable number 6. Number 5, Don 1000. So the main villain of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal makes this list just at the number 5 spot. I do have 4 characters ranked ahead of him. Don 1000 was a terrifyingly powerful duelist. He had a card that had 100,000 attack points, and like we saw in the duel against Misael, he had the ability to rewrite cards, which was just crazy. He was a super OP duelist. It took Yuma, Astral, Shark, and Kaito all to take him down in what was a really good final villain duel at the end of Zexal. Don 1000 is the strongest villain in the show from a dueling perspective. He's the strongest Baryon. I do not have any issue putting him here at the 5 spot, but I do believe the 4 duelists ahead of him are stronger duelists than he is. Number 4, Astral. So Astral might be a character that not a lot of people expected to be very high, but hear me out. I think the big reason that Yuma was able to grow as a duelist as much as he was because he was under the watchful guidance and eye of Astral, who was an extremely talented duelist. He pushed Yuma to his limits in the final duel of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, the ceremonial duel, and he also, I believe, had a duel against Kaito and in a draw. So he was able to really hold his own on numerous occasions. And remember, in the past, Astral defeated Don 1000. So purely from a power standpoint, I think Astral is stronger than Don 1000, and I have him 1 spot ahead of Don 1000 at the number 4 position. Number 3, Shark. So this is where it gets a little debatable. Shark, Yuma, and Kaito are obviously the big 3. They're the 3 remaining. Hell, some people might even put Astral or Don 1000 here. This was a tough top 5 for me to rank, but I do think Shark deserves to be number 3. I think he lost to Yuma enough times for me to feel that Yuma is, by the end of the show, a better duelist than Shark, but I believe that Shark is the strongest of the Baryons. I know I said Vector was earlier, but that's because I was thinking evil Baryons, and Shark is always kind of that gray, non-evil Baryon. But when you look at the Baryons, Shark is stronger than Vector. He beat Vector in a duel. He ended up having a big part in defeating Don 1000 in a duel. And throughout Zexal, Shark was always shown to be a super competent and skilled duelist. When he became a Baryon, that power and that respect just skyrocketed and got enhanced to a degree that we had never seen before. Shark deserves to be number 3, but I don't think he deserves to be higher than number 3. Number 2, Yuma. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal is the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Show where the protagonist is not, in my opinion, the best duelist in the show. Yuma, by the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, is an unstoppable dueling machine. I know people love to clown on Yuma for being a horrible duelist, and whenever anyone says that, I know they probably haven't watched past the first 10 to 15 episodes of this show. Early on, Yuma was a really not good duelist, and I think Astral helped him a lot with that. But by the second half of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, Yuma did not lose a single time. He lost to Kaito right after the duel against Dr. Faker in the low 70s. He did not lose a single duel in the second half of Zexal, and he just became this dueling machine. And so Yuma, I do believe, deserves to be this high because we are looking at these characters when they are at their strongest. Yuma is the pinnacle of dueling growth in any Yu-Gi-Oh series. He's beaten Shark more times than he's lost to Shark, and by the end of the show, Yuma is one of the best duelists, undoubtedly, in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Number 1, Kaito. Obviously, I think Kaito is not only the strongest duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, I think he's one of the strongest duelists in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! He's probably number 3 or 4 for me in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And maybe I'll make a full series or full franchise power ranking at the end. Let me know if that's something you'd like to see in the comments. But Kaito's only loss was against Tron, and the reason he lost that duel was because Tron was using Haruto to distract and manipulate him. So in fair dueling circumstances, Kaito did not lose a single duel. He had Yuma dead to rights the first time they met, and then he defeated Yuma right at the end of the first season, or the first part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. And so when Yuma was really getting good, when he was becoming a really tough, competent duelist, he still couldn't defeat Kaito. And if it wasn't for Kaito jumping in that Yuma Shark Don 1000 duel, I don't know if Yuma and Shark would have had enough to end up defeating Don 1000. So Kaito is just one of the best non-protagonist duelists we have ever seen, and I think if Kaito and Yuma dueled at the very end of the series, I think Kaito is going to win. I put my money on Kaito. Yuma gets to be a really good duelist, and him being number 2 is no disrespect at all. That's probably higher than where a lot of people would put him, but to me, Kaito is the ace duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, and he is the strongest duelist in the series. And that wraps it up. Those are the 10 strongest duelists from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal anime. If you haven't seen my lists for Duel Monsters, GX, and 5Ds, they will all be linked down below. This was a tough one to do because, again, it's that classic question, how do you power scale main villains who only dueled once or twice and never got a win? That was the challenge I had with number 96, Faker, and Don 1000, and so hopefully I did a pretty good job. I mean, these are the rankings as to how I see them. Hopefully you guys kind of agree, and if you disagree, definitely let me know why down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Goosey Q and Panther J, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, and Elaine, and to my Egyptian God tier patron, Pink Penguin. Be sure to check out my Patreon for additional channel perks. Thank you to everybody who is a patron or channel member. You guys help me out tremendously. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out my channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content, and I hope you have an amazing day.